Alright, so basically now you've got your email list, you've done your lead magnet, you've already built your initial list, and you've written your indoctrination sequence. So what now? How are you supposed to make money off of this email list? What are you supposed to do next? I mean, you have all these people on the list and you're just supposed to talk to them or supposed to make money out of them somehow by offering something for them, but you're not really sure what or how to do it. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do so, and you're going to know exactly how to line up your product offerings so they're profitable, engaging, persuasive, and exciting for the customer. Check it out. Alright, so the main thing that you might be thinking now and considering essentially is that you have an email list, and what real good is it unless you can use it and actually do something with it for your audiences and your leads, right? So you've got a bunch of people on this list, you've collected all these names, you've given them something valuable, you've excited them with your indoctrination sequence, which is usually 3 to 5 emails, and now what? So I'm going to show you this exact format of what you should really be doing, because you can take this replica and a template and really just use it on your own. And it's a simple way to start actually testing your offers and launching certain products and offerings in the market, because the main topic of this video here is that you're launching your offers and testing your product offerings and your sales approaches, right? So how do you do that? What do you say? What are you supposed to say? And what are you supposed to do in terms of the long-term segmentation and follow-ups and offers, so you can pitch products to people that are valuable and that will be great solutions to their lives. I'll show you exactly how to do that, so let's get into the video. What's up, Motive in Motion family? I'm Evan. I make a lot of videos about copywriting, marketing, consulting, and mostly direct response. And if you're a new copywriter, you're in the right place as well, because you're going to be learning a whole bunch of skills from me, including like how to land new clients, how to sell them on the phone, what to price your services at, how to do long-term business with recurring clients and recurring revenue from these people and whatnot, how to get people so happy that they come back to you again and again and pay you high ticket, high value copy and consulting fees. And just like I do with my clients, I've sold multiple different packages from anywhere from low ticket like 500 to 1,000 up to 5K and 10K and more than that as well. So really, like, I'm just giving you the whole peel back of the curtain of my business and showing you what works. And for this series, we are doing basically how to create an email list, because it's one of the most tangible, valuable assets that you can ever have in an online business. And in this video, I'm showing you the whole long-term focus for that, the long form content rather, with the 5 steps in the formula, because that video will show you basically an hour's worth of how to build an email list with all 5 steps. And you can also check number 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the other videos in this actual series for this 5-step formula. And right now we're on number 3, which is basically how to test your product offerings and how your sales approaches are supposed to format and work together to help each other. And in those videos, you're basically seeing all the breakdowns for each one of them. So if you love this content, smash the crap out of the like button and just obliterate it and hurt its feelings and whatnot, so that this can be circulated around the internet a lot better and more efficiently. And then of course subscribe, because this little button will help you learn all these new things that you're working on with your copywriting skills and your email building list skills, because you're actually offering something that's valuable to your audiences over the long term and for your brand that really helps your company grow. So I'm going to just lay it out in all these videos, and right now we're on number 3, which is testing your product offers and your sales approaches. Okay, so step 1 in this really is that you want to have a smooth transition right after your indoctrination sequence, so you're adding value to the people consistently, but you're also leading them towards the next step, right? So how do you really do this? The main way is that you're wanting to make it a natural, smooth transition from what you've already indoctrinated them with. Again, you can check that video out here. But basically, you've already done the indoctrination sequence, so they're a part of your cult, they're a part of your brand, they love you, and they are looking for more value and more education and more edutainment, like we mentioned before in the other video. But they are already kind of looking at you to see kind of like, all right, what's next? What do we have? We've already known and learned and understood what your brand really stands for, because your indoctrination sequence, if you've done your job right here, is to basically show you things about the long-term focus that the brand can offer, right? So for this stage, you really want to use content in a smart way. And again, this is being very general because there's a lot of different ways, but on the screen I can kind of show you some of the basic ones from some of my past clients' work and whatnot for I've delivered for various industries and verticals and whatnot. But the main gist of this subject is that you really want to give them something that's content oriented so they can read it and engage with it. Maybe it's a video and they're loving the content, getting a lot of value from the pieces that you're putting out to the market, right? And to your audience and to this list that you build up with your lead magnet and then nurtured with your indoctrination sequence. Again, covered in depth in both of those 1 and 2 step videos, and of course the 5-step long form content with that. But you are giving them something that really engages them and persuades them to do something else with you, right? Take the next step. Again, if we covered that in the other video about how we need to always have the call to action. So step number 2 with our indoctrinations, the second step of that video was basically to remember your calls to action and how to use them properly. And basically, what to position it as in terms of like giving them something that is to be engaged with and can be learned from, but is also entertaining and not just boring, not just logical, boring educational information that they want to read like a textbook. You got to think about like textbook versus like carnivore circus, like you want to have some middle ground between the circus and a textbook. You don't want it to be boring and dry and logical, and you don't want it to be just so fun that's so amazing they can't remember anything else and they don't know where to go after that, right? You need to have that nice middle balance where they are educated and entertained, and so you're smoothly moving them down the funnel that you have by using content. So the way that we use this content is that we are giving them something that is the logical next step for them to learn about, but we're also peppering an offer that they can use and then they can choose to be a part of, right? So maybe you say, I'll give you like 2 or 3 quick examples here. Number 1 is, let's say you've got a product that's, I'll use this as an example because I use this every day, right? Myofascial release ball. I love this thing. I got this in Bali. It says Mandala. And man, this is like a lifesaver. It's really great for just like releasing, like stress and fascia, because your whole body is actually covered in above your musculature with a thin layer of thing called fascia. And this is like a myofascial release ball, right? So I don't have this for sale. I'm not pumping this as a product. I just use it or whatever. It's a great example because it's on my table. But this thing, for instance, if you want to sell it, maybe you talk about all the things that are important about your fascia in your release, right? You're like the tension points that you're trying to release. I use it for my back a lot because like I put it in between myself and the wall, and like I'll put it right between my shoulder blades and then like start moving it around, like using my weight on it, because I'm working online a lot. So if you don't actually correct this, you're kind of sitting like that and your posture gets all messed up. So if I was in the market with that, which I am, I have one now, but I'd be open to buying different products on that, right? So if I'm in the market for that, you might start telling me educational things about how the fascia is aligning with all and wrapping all your muscles that are protecting it in a certain way, and also this is kind of what happens when you have a hernia, because it rips the fascia and your muscles or your guts kind of come through. As messed up as that is, that's kind of basically what happens with the hernia. And so you might be talking about a dangerous story about how Kathy or James or whatever had a certain problem with their fascia, or Tim had a hernia while he was playing soccer or football or whatever, right? And how he went through the horrible painful process of basically fixing that and trying to get the best rehabilitation without surgery or without physical therapy or whatever, expensive sessions and whatnot, right? And you could tell that story, which is the edutaining part, right? The entertainment side of the edutainment equation. And then you're also giving educational value, that's the content, which is the education, right? Telling me why, how my body works and how certain, protective mechanisms are healed and rehabilitated, right? That would be a super valuable and entertaining thing that actually is mixed perfectly with a story and with some educational value called content, right? You're in the middle of the zone of selling and giving things away. And that content is developing my understanding of it. And so you're creating goodwill in the market. You're teaching me something. You're telling me a story. You're entertaining me. You're using this content with these drip sequences that you'd be maybe doing, like I said before in the first video, 300-500 words, maybe somewhere around that. And each email is dripping something that's more consistent and more engaging and helping me understand better about my body and what I need to do to maintain it, to like keep it healthy and to like repair injuries and things like that. And then eventually you stay, what is the product that can actually fix all of this stuff that we were just talking about, and like all the pain points that you just listed off in these emails that the prospect is resonating with. You basically say, well, like if you want to fix those, then an easy way is to pick up one of these myofascial release balls. And we're doing a special right now. We got 20% off because of this, that, and the other. You always want to give a reason when you're actually giving a discount or something. You don't want to just say like, here's free stuff or cheap stuff, because people don't really value what they get for free, or especially with the discounts, unless there's an actual reason, like you're running out of stock or you're changing products or your suppliers or something like that. You give a real reason. This goes back again to Cialdini's like whole research on influence and whatnot, Robert Cialdini. A reason specifically on why you want to actually give them a discount if you're doing that discount. I'm not saying you have to. So that's just an example, but let me give you one more, okay? So let's say you have a clothing brand and your clothing brand is solving one specific issue, and the issue is that, like something about cotton is not good for the sustainable environment, right? Or it's not good for the ecosystem, or, have a different angle maybe about how like cotton is just like, wet and heavy when it gets sweat in, right? And it's like it's not wicking very well. And you start talking a lot about how like maybe someone had an experience where they were at a very important meeting and they were wearing a cotton undershirt or something, and then they were very nervous because they were talking to important, powerful people that they were trying to influence. And like they started like really being sweaty, and you could see it through their suit or something like that, right? And this is kind of like a random example. Again, it's just off the top. But it's an example about where you're telling a story or engaging someone in a prospect in one story that they're actually like resonant with, because maybe they have their experience before, or they've experienced the pain points like related with that, and also those tertiary kind of like embarrassing moments that people have actually experienced in your market, right? Because you researched. Again, it all builds on itself. But maybe they are going through this issue and you're selling them in this way because they already have had that experience in their story. And then their education side of the thing is actually saying like why cotton is like, not great for this, and why you've already come up with another polyurethane like method, or mixed with like a bamboo clothing, or it's organic or something like that, or made out of hemp or whatever, some superior program that you've like implemented in your creation for your project and the product that you're creating in your manufacturing. And you've already gone through all the research and all the stories and the case studies and whatnot, and then you're putting that education out there again to mix with that entertainment. And so that's a very powerful way to make the edutainment through the content, through these drip sequences that you're dripping automatically, which again, these can be things that make you money in your sleep because they're dripping all day, every day, automatically, because you've already set out the segmentation like in your active campaign or MailChimp or whatever it may be. And you're doing this on the long term because you're giving them content, transitioning from that indoctrination sequence, pitching your offers and testing your angles and testing your positioning, okay? So that's basically what you do. That's essentially step one, is you're testing these offers with edutainment, again, like building on the number two step, which we've covered in this video for number two, which is the whole indoctrination sequence. And the edutainment that you're giving them is transitioning them from the indoctrination sequence into the bulk and the meat of your content, which is therefore pitching the products and testing new product offerings. And then of course you look at that data like any good direct response copywriter or marketer does with any brand, any business. You're looking at the actual data that you get back and receive by what's the open rate, what's the click-through rate, what's the sales that you're making off, what's the profit margins that you have, right? Which email is performing better, which headline is better, right? You're split testing all of this stuff eventually. Initially you can actually just start in a simple way, but then you want to optimize and kind of quote unquote beat your best, right? Something I got from Google Adwords master, Perry Marshall, talks a lot about the books of his books on Google direct response and like conversion and optimization and all this stuff, right? So you're always wanting to beat your best. You're wanting to split test against your best to make sure that you can get the best results with the content that you've delivered. So that's really step one for that. So moving on to step two, we're going to be really focusing on how to optimize this stuff and also test different angles and test different positioning and hooks and whatnot for your products, and then be able to split test that and find your best. So let's hop into that now. So a cool thing here about step 2 is really when you're optimizing your workflows and you're actually figuring out which one is your best, you're testing against your best to make the best possible offer that you possibly can. And I'll show you again, because this is like up on the screen here is like me delivering for my clients every single time that I do. I always deliver them multiple headlines and multiple things that they can actually test with their split testing, because I want to make sure that they have the best ammunition for launching that to the market and making the best products that they possibly can, but also more importantly, marketing them in the most efficient ways and the best ways that will get them the conversions that they're after, so they don't have any reason for things not to work because they have so much ammunition. In other words, like I like to call it, really, it's like firepower, right? To be able to work through whatever split tests that they're going and A/B tests that they're launching to their market, because I want them to be able to have as many options to use to see what people respond to. Because the main thing for this is like you really will find out in your campaigns that some people will respond to certain things way better than others. Like maybe if you're doing the fat loss thing, right, in that vertical, like for some product, right, you would say something about, you know, how frustrating it is for other people to think that you are like overweight and they look at you and judge you in a different way, right? You start that with email, and that subheadline, the subject rather, is, you know, maybe pulling like okay, like, you know, 15 to 20%. It's opens, you know, decent opens, I guess, right? That's for the industry standard. But if you do something else, like, you know, how great and confident you feel when you go out by yourself, whatever, do a subject line based on that stuff, and then it outpulls by literally double. Maybe you get a 40% open rate on that one, and it's specified to their name and whatnot, so it's actually kind of customized to them stuff. Like that stuff outpulls the crap out of the first email, then you know that there's a better chance that more people will see that email when you send it, because you can split test with only like 100 each. Maybe you do 100 names on each side, and then the 100 that actually gets the 40% open rate, you're like, all right, great, I'm gonna run that. And then also another little meta caveat, which is, I guarantee you probably haven't thought of this, because this is like something that almost nobody talks about. But basically, when you're actually doing the split testing, you want to make sure that you are doing the best optimization for the main conversion line. So the end of the conversions, your net conversions, like how many people are buying, you want that number to be the highest. You know, you want the most profit, the biggest margin, the most sales, but you don't want to be like, oh great, I got an awesome 40% conversion rate on my opens, and then the click-through rate is like 1%, right? Or the click-through rate is even less or worse than that, right? And then the sales may be horrible from that, right? So you want to always look at it from the long-term perspective of your entire funnel. And hardly anybody talks about this, because they do all these case studies and they send out all this stuff about bragging about how great their open rates, click-through rates, and blah, blah, blah for email, and how big their list is, and they have the general list, and we covered that again in the main long-form video, the hour. Everybody likes to brag about how they have 100,000 subscribers or whatever, but that's cool as long as you're using those really well and wisely. But if you're not, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares? I would take the landing page that converts at 5%, which is horrible for opt-ins, and open rates, which are 10%, which is also horrible, and then click-through rate, which is like 0.5%, which is also horrible, as long as my conversion rate at the end was 5% or something, you know, something great, like way above the industry norm, which is roughly 1 to 2% for almost all industries. Like, you should basically get one sale for 100 eyeballs, right? So that's what you need to learn about. That's like a meta caveat with a lot of people's like split testing funnels, because they don't really think about this stuff, which is crazy to me, because it's like, well, duh, don't you care about sales and business and revenue? Like, aren't you focused on your profit? Instead, everybody, you know, these days like wants to be a guru and like give everything all the way for all the numbers that they're making, all the opt-in rates and email and everything. So I would just say, like, keep that in mind, especially when you're choosing people to listen to. Don't be swayed by like the numbers that they get for their opt-ins, or for this, that, and the other, or for how big their list is, for how much of a pro they are, or whatever, right? You really need to focus on like, okay, well, did this lead to the results? Did this actually get conversions? Does this boost my net profit or my top line revenue? Like, does it actually work? Again, like I said, I would take that 40% way after I took a 10% that was actually converting at the very back end of like 5%, right? So again, just keep that in mind. But you really need to be able to split test these things and find out which angles and hooks are going to be working the best, because this is how you optimize your copy. Like, this is really how you optimize everything that you've launched into the market thus far, after you've already indoctrinated them and actually given them long-term good value, goodwill, rapport, built that relationship one-on-one, which is the most important thing when you're building an actual list, right? And number 3, for this final 3-step, I mean, this main thing about actually building the offers and the positioning and your sales, and you're testing them against each other for your split testing and conversions, this is the main focus that you want to have, is like the bottom line mindset and focus. Like, you don't want to be caught up in the fluff or on the shiny object syndrome. Like, you want to have a bottom line mentality where you're looking clearly at your data. You know, like any good direct response marketer or copywriter does, you're tracking, you know that you're having your numbers on hand, like in tangible format, you know, so you can look at your conversions to what they are. And you can also match that up. Like, let's say you're doing cold email. This is another little tip, but like if you're doing cold email, you want to send out emails to maybe like 1,000 people over time. But if you know that after you send out about 200, you have decent data back, and you know that maybe like 5% actually open them, or, you know, hopefully it should be more than that, right? But maybe 3% actually respond to you on cold, which would be not bad, right? Then you can kind of forward project which those are by doing a little bit of simple math and dividing that number by how many you need to actually send in the future. And that would be basically how, like, okay, I know I'm getting a 3% conversion rate. How many people do I need to actually send out in the future emails to? And that would be way more powerful for you than you just like flying blind by the seat of your pants, right? So that's basically what I got for you today, guys. For the recap, like, number one, you really need to have testing offers using content and edutainment so you can move them up to the next level of the funnel to get that relationship built even more and sell your products. Like, this is the transitionary phase where you're selling your products. And number two, like, test it and optimize it. Make sure that's conversion focused and oriented and optimized, and you are actually doing the best you can for your split testing and your A/B testing, testing one piece of copy, one headline, whatever, against each other and against itself with, you know, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 variants. You know, on a sales letter, it needs to be even like, you know, 20. Like, ideally make like 5 or 10 headlines for that. Make sure that you're testing against that. And for emails, like, at least do like 5 and make sure that you're testing them against each other long term, so you can optimize that copy and you can optimize it for conversions, making sure that you are doing the best with the best ammunition, the most firepower to test everything against itself and make sure that you've got the great numbers. So that's what I've got for you in this video. If you really thought this was valuable content, smash the crap out of the like button, which hopefully is obliterated and blue right now. Whatever you got to do right now to make that little like button thumbs up blue, you just do it. And then subscribe right here, because I will come out with a whole bunch more videos for you specifically on how to build this email list. We're not even done with the 5-step series. You can check all the videos up here with the #1 long form content for like an hour where we cover all 5 of those points, but also 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 individually. So this is number 3 of 5. So we got 3 of 5. This is the #1 main thing you need to focus on when you're launching your offers. So that's what I've got today for you guys. Evan from Motive in Motion. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk soon. Bye.